Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host Kaustubha, the senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City. Welcome to our show. Where are my notes here? So we're in the midst of, a great, like they call it the Great Depression, like it was great. But it's something's happening, and I think everybody's a little off kilter because of the big news that just came out early this morning. I think that's got a lot of people on edge. Kenny Rogers died, and we're trying to cope with that right now. The death of Kenny Rogers, the gambler, who left us with a lot of important information before his death. Lord Chaitanya left us the instructions, the Shikshastikam. Kenny Rogers left us with these 8 instructions. You got to know when to hold them, and you got to know when to fold them, and know when to walk away and know when to run. Never count your money sitting at the table. There's time enough for counting when the day is done. So appreciate Kenny Rogers. We're going to miss him. 81. He lived a good life. That being said, New York State is about to go on lockdown, which means according to the governor, we're not allowed to leave our house unless we are, what is it, Mara? Grocery shopping, going to the doctor, and that's all you're allowed to do. Take your dog out for a walk. So, I think are you on lockdown, Kaustubha? Can you go out?
Well, I've heard that was likely to come down. I didn't know it yesterday. I was out in the park yesterday.
Yeah.
Other than that, no, I've been inside.
Well, our people listening to the show in Bologna said that they got official lockdown where they can't go jogging anymore. They can't go to the park because what was happening, these Italians, they all like to come out and they go, okay, no work today. Let's just all hang out in the park. It's defeating the purpose. So they said, okay, you can't do it now. You can't ride your bike. I still think we can go bike riding. If you're dealing with this and you struggle, I think a big thing of the whole concept of social distancing is that we are social by nature.
Yeah.
So if you're a person that suffers a little bit from isolation, it's a huge thing. When people get into isolation mode, you can get depressed real quick. So even if you're not, wrestling with somebody, you could still call people that you love, call people that can lift you up. That's the type of social you can do, even if you can't be around everybody. Another thing I'm thinking is when people have nothing to do, even their mundane job that they don't even like, but there's no work, there's nothing. It's a scary and wonderful time because it makes you sit alone with your own mind. And one of the downsides of it is people can feel like, what is my purpose? What am I doing? I have nothing to do. And people need a purpose. Now, here on the Wisdom of the Sages, we say you need a purpose. Don't just fill yourself with any task. You need a spiritual purpose. That's our dharma, our offering, our contribution to the world. But when you stop the work, I'm just thinking of Mara here. She's like absorbed in her business. She's a caterer. She's a fine caterer. She's a #1 caterer in Columbia County. And she's got no more work because you can't get married during the coronavirus. I don't think it's against the law to get married or to be in love during the coronavirus. So no one's, so anyway, no one's catering there because they have no marriage any longer. So so Mara needs purpose. She's wandering around like a zombie. And so one thing we can do is we figure out, what this time to sit alone. Let's make our own spiritual life our purpose. First, you need some purpose. And it's one of those things that let's face it, we are wound up. There's no time for anything in the old reality. There's a new reality where there's a lot of time on your hands, and these things that you can take care of that you've been neglecting. This is a time to do it. And it's a time to really connect with people you love. It's a really good time to connect with yourself. And, we're opening the door of this like Vedic truths and Vedic spirituality. What a great time. I mean, how many great books do you have on your shelf that you've never read? This is a great time to go, what? I'm going to write down a list of I was about to say a paid vacation, but no one's getting paid. This is like everybody's getting laid off. I mean, we're getting to there. This is a great time to say, you know what? I'm reading this book. I'm going to spend this quality time with my kids. I'm going to work on my relationship. Anything when we get into that isolation phase, there becomes worry, there becomes fear, there becomes anxiety. And that brings me to stage 2 is, read the news, but regulate it. Don't let your whole day be CNN or Fox News or whatever you dive into. You're going to get sick. Educate yourself a little. Regulate it. How much news do you need per day? You need it twice a day? Okay. 5 minutes and 5 minutes. 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. Boss, finished. Otherwise, you get into this worry mode, and it's not good for anybody. And this panic mode. And people really do stupid things when they panic. You want to add anything to this list, Kaustubh?
Well, the point that you made that I found interesting is you said it can be hard to sit alone with the mind. And, particularly for people like living here in Manhattan, a lot of people live alone. You got your small apartment, you're alone. And now this news is coming in that, I'm going to be alone a lot for a long time. It can be scary. And there's people that, like they have these Vipassana retreats, things like that. Even
it's like the same thing.
Yeah.
This is your Vipassana retreat.
But people are scared to death of going on a Vipassana retreat. I'm going to sit there and not talk to anyone for 10 days. It's like challenging, but I've never done a Vipassana retreat. But I've done some meditation, and I believe that even the very act of sitting very still and going within is scary for people. But my understanding of the Vipassana retreat is you come out the other side. It's kind of, you have to face that sitting alone.
Right.
And then you come out the other side with a different relationship with your mind.
Right.
You go into it just controlled by it. Then you have this scary feeling of having to be alone with the mind. And then you come out the other side kind of more at peace with your mind. And so maybe that's what we're all meant to do a bit right now too, is if we feel a little fear, that's okay. Let that be. Know that you can come out the other side of it. And as you're saying, make the best use of the time. Say, okay, mind, I'm going to choose how to engage you. I'm not going to slip down that go down the drain of just news consumption this whole time. I'm not going to, this may be a week, this may be a month, this may be several months. We don't know how long it's going to be. I'm not going to allow that time to just slip away in news consumption. I'm going to regulate this. I'm going to control it, and I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to come out the other side of this thing a better person. I'm going to come out the other side of this thing having gained some realization about life. It'll aid my mission in life rather than hinder my mission in life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We don't want to just say, okay, I'm going to turn off from the fake world, because this is a lot of people's answer also. I'm going to turn off from what's going on out there and just dive into, I'm going to watch The Sound of Music, or I'm not saying don't watch a good movie. There's a time to invest in Netflix stock. We're going to get rich in this current coronavirus. This is, but there's a lot of great stuff that you can binge watch that's not going to be dark, depressing, take your mind to dark places. There's we should write lists, man, of movies, maybe on our, by the way, if you're new to the show, we have a whole Zoom live group that's filled to the rim today that's also watching. If you want to join that group, you email Mara at Wisdom of the Sages 108@gmail.com, and she'll get you on the group. But we should put up a list, because on that list of the Zoom list, we have a message board called Discord, and we all speak. Oh, that's through our Patreon account. I'm sorry. Patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages. If you're not on that, join us. It helps support us in what we're doing. Give whatever you want. And we have a great message board, and perhaps we can have a movie list. We need movies that are going to, media, because it's our food. Media is also a type of food that we eat. So we want to be careful the food we put on our mouth in times like this, because that's going to affect our moods and our minds. We want to be very careful about what we put in our ears, because that's going to affect our moods and our minds. And these are something when you're in like either in a 1-bedroom apartment or a studio apartment or in a big house, you want to have some ability to, tweak your mood and your mind by what you consume. So we got to be careful about what we're watching, not just binge watching anything to forget, but put in only health food for the consciousness, superfoods for the consciousness. Another thing is, I want to say, you got to move your body. Even if you're inside, if you can't go out the door, you got to move your body. You got to figure out a way to move your body. Simple yoga, anything to move your body, to sweat a little. We have a little jujitsu mat where me and the kids wrestle every day. It's a good way for them to get out there. It's a good way for me to wrestle them. You need to do something with your body. And if you can still go outside, go for a bike ride, go for a walk. There's something healthy in just breathing the air. I guess that depends where you live. Aravind, if you live in Delhi, do not breathe the air.
Do you also want to mention Kaustubha's class on Patreon?
Oh, yeah, Kaustubha, you have your Patreon class today. Patreon members, Kaustubha's giving a class on the 13th chapter of the Gita.
That's right, at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
4 to 5.
And thanks for everybody joining me for a Sweet Baby Krishna reading last night. That was very sweet. It is such a good way to go to bed at night reading the Krishna book. I tell you, if you suffer from insomnia or you just, here's what I can't even explain it until you read Krishna book at night. But do an experiment. However you go to bed, whatever your nighttime ritual is, read Krishna book before you go to bed. And it's such a great way to wind down the night. It puts and you know what? I didn't tell you this, Kaustubha.
Mm-hmm.
I woke up from a dream where I had a deity of Lord Chaitanya in my hands.
Okay.
That was my dream last. I woke up I woke up in this dream holding a deity, and I was about to think, it's time to bathe the deity. That's what was my dream. Then I woke up.
Nice.
Wasn't that a
That's
good way to
from
wake
reading
up?
the Sweet Baby Krishna book.
That's reading Sweet Baby Krishna at night. That was a sign. That's how I want to wake up every morning. All right, Mara. What do you say we start with the Srimad Bhagavatam?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devam saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of our conquest, one should offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati utama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving devotional service to the Transcendental Lord, who's praised with transcendental songs, will be established as in the heart as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Midatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we are at a great place in the Srimad Bhagavatam. We if you're new to the show, welcome. We study this book, the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's many teachings of ancient India. This is the teachings of bhakti, or how to understand that you are part and parcel of the divine. And I gotta move my computer. I made it so high I can't read the Bhagavatam. that you're part and parcel of the divine. We are not a process of conversion. We are a process of remembering. We're not trying to convert people to a new club or religious, what's the word? A new religion. It's a the process of bhakti is to wake up what we already all are. It's not subject. Everybody, it doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter what ethnicity you are. It doesn't matter what your gender is. It doesn't even matter what your species is. Sanatan Dharma is about we forgot what our identity is. And this process is a way to wake it up and remember it again. And it actually works. You know how it works? You can find out right now. You start to enter the experiment yourself. It's nothing I have to preach to you to. You enter the experiment and you start to notice these things different. You start to notice the separation from you and what you've been presenting yourself as. It's a quite fascinating thing. It's like I said, it's not a new religion. It is the thread that ties all spiritual paths together. Therefore, you can't say, like this word sometimes gets translated like this word dharma. Sometimes these words just can't be translated. They just have to keep it as dharma. Sometimes they even use the word dharma as religion. You can't say I'm spiritual, but I'm not dharmic. You can't say that. You can't say I'm not dharmic, but that means you're like criminal. This is we are sort of like having this dharma in our life. This is for everybody. It doesn't matter what spiritual path you're part of. So in this particular place in the Bhagavatam, these are prayers from a great queen who's going through great hardship. If you're going through hardship, then you can relate to these prayers. But she's seeing it from a very powerful, empowering vantage point, that there's nothing of this world that will actually save her except her connection to Krishna. Krishna is a way of saying the supreme, the divine, your higher power, the universe, the source. We give so many different names to God. But that's what we're talking about. We're all talking about the same being or force. So this is text 33, Canto 1, chapter 8, text 33. Others say that since both Vasudeva and Devaki prayed for you, you have taken your birth as their son. Undoubtedly, you are unborn. Yet you take your birth for their welfare and to kill those who are envious of the demigods. You want to explain a little bit about the unborn, yet he's born, Kaustubha?
Okay. Let's just...
Very eloquent.
Oh, I don't know. Feeling tired this morning, so it's great. This class is waking me up a little bit.
I'll wake you up.
I gave like a 3-hour class last night, like a yoga teacher training. And I woke up this morning like tired, but it's great just to dive into the Bhagavatam, and it's waking me up. So we're in a series of verses that we started yesterday with Kunti is now, she's saying, people say that you appear for different reasons, right? She's saying you are that divine root of everything. You are that origin of all existence, but you appear here just like a person in front of us. And some say you do it. Yesterday, she said, some say you do it to kind of glorify the Yadu dynasty, the dynasty that you appear in. And she gave the analogy of like sandalwood appears in the Malaya Hills. It like gives glory to those hills by sandalwood appearing there. And now she's saying, and then others have another theory of why you appear. Or here's another reason why people say that you appear. And that's because your parents, Vasudeva and Devaki, who Vasudeva, I believe, is Kunti's brother. And Devaki would be her sister-in-law.
Vasudeva is Kunti's brother.
I'm pretty sure that's right. She's either Devaki's her sister, but I'm pretty sure it's Vasudeva's her brother and Devaki's her sister-in-law. And so she's, okay, Arvind is saying correct, thank you. So others say that since Vasudeva and Devaki prayed for you, you have taken birth as their son. In other words, it's describing that they desired intensely, they made this top priority in their life, we would like to serve God in this intimate way with parental affection. We would like to enter into a reciprocal relationship with God with a very deep, intense, divine mood of parental love. And in answer to that prayer, to satisfy that desire, you were born as their son. Although you are God, you are the origin of everything. How can you be born? Right? If you're the source of, it's the chicken and the egg thing, right? If everything comes from you, how can you come from someone? But he does that for the purpose of, he appears as if he's their son for the purpose of reciprocating that way, loving that way. I'll appear as your son. If you want to love me that way, then I'll appear to you that way. So that's what that's mentioning. And then she gives another reason too. You take birth for their welfare and to kill those who are envious of the demigods. And that's kind of where the whole Mahabharata plays out, that the earth is suffering due to all of the just rotten leaders, you know, horrible leaders that
you ever wonder, like, are they worse than the leaders now?
you know, maybe
bad
they're more
leaders out there. We've had some bad leaders. You know, we have the Mussolinis, the Stalins, the Hitlers. You know, we've had some pretty bad. Pol Pot. These guys were bad. Like, were they
Pol
worse
Pot.
than them? Pol Pot was bad, right? You're thinking of that Dead Kennedy song. I know.
That's immediately what I thought. But
right? Pol Pot was bad. These guys are like real bad.
They say that he appears in this day too, though. But how does he appear?
He appears in the holy name.
He appears in the holy name. That's the Yuga avatar. So he's appearing in this age too. Or, you know, it's the Yuga Dharma.
And the demons appear, but the demons also appear within your own body. Whereas at one time they were in your own nation, like Sri Lanka and India.
Yeah.
The demons appeared within the same nation. Sometimes they appear in the same family, like Krishna and Kamsa. Right? They're related.
I think the saying goes that in the Satya Yuga, they appeared on different planets, like the Devas, the gods, and the demons, they were on different planets. And then in the next Yuga, Treta Yuga, they appeared on the same planet, I suppose. And then in the Dwapara Yuga, they appear even in the same family. And in the Kali Yuga, they appear in the same person. Right? We're all battling. We're all battling with our
inside us. It's good to know, though. It's good to know because the tendency is we want to get those external demons that are out there causing the world problems. I'm that demon. Instead of like projecting I want to correct the world. Our real work is to correct ourselves.
Yeah.
It's actually great. It's a great way to look at it.
Well, and, you know, and that brings me back to what you were mentioning earlier about what we choose to consume, right? What are we going to, okay, we're in lockdown here. What are we going to consume? Are we going to pick up an important book that's going to be nourishing to me, or am I going to binge on the CNN or something like that? And so, you know, that demon and God within, you know, the Deva and the Asura within oneself, you know, they used to be on different planets. Now they're both within me. And, you know, it reminds me of that. I believe it's a Native American thing that Raghunath Swami, you know, mentions in his book, The Journey Within. About
the two dogs.
The two dogs, the good and the bad dog. You can say
my dog Mudras.
Okay, let's see that again.
The dog Mudras.
But that we each have a good and bad dog, and the question is which one's going to win. You know, hopefully we all want the good dog to win.
Good dog will definitely win, right?
I'm sorry?
The good dog will definitely win, right?
Well, we hope so, but it doesn't always work that way. So if we want the good dog to win, it said which dog is going to win. If we have a good dog in us and a bad dog in us, and they're battling day by day, moment by moment sometimes. Which one's going to win? The one that we choose to feed. That's the one that's going to win. So what is feeding our good dog? What is feeding our bad dog? We have to really think about that. What is feeding the bad dog, Raghu?
What is feeding the bad dog? What does
the bad dog eat?
What does the bad dog? This brings me to my public accountability confession I'd like to make. Okay. Do you mind if I share a personal confession, everybody?
Let's hear it.
Feeding a bad dog. okay, sometimes my logical, rational mind likes to explain or justify some Maya. So a person that I really respect said to me, there's a good television show I think you would like. It's very well written. And so I said, oh, okay. I don't really watch TV, but, I wanted to dip my toe into Maya to see how ever do that? You dip your toe into Maya. Oh, it's not so bad. Or Maya comes banging on your door and you, hey, what do you want, Maya? Something like that. So this person said, you should watch the show, The Wire. The Wire is a great show. It's incredibly written. Obama loved The Wire. And so what I did was I watched.
You could go ahead and say it's me.
No.
Or someone else.
I'm saying my story. I'm going to say my story. It's got nothing to do with you.
Okay.
Just giving so anyway, I watched an episode, and they do there's a lot of cursing, a lot of shooting, a lot of like dealing with drugs and drug culture if you're unfamiliar with it. And so I watched it, and then I was like, all right, that was tough. I haven't seen like dead bodies and shooting and all that stuff for a while. It's cursing. And plus it's like, I live in a household of a bunch of kids. So if I want to watch a movie like that, I got like hide in the bathroom and watch it because it's, it's almost like if you're like a drug addict, it's like you're smoking cigarettes, you're hiding in the corner or something like that. I'm like hiding my computer, watching this, putting headphones on. So the cursing. And then, I wasn't turned on. So the friend who turned me on to, I said, hey, what do you think about it? I didn't really like the first episode. He said, give it a chance. You got to get into it. You got to dive into it a little deeper. So that was it. That was it. That kicked the boulder in the hill to begin watching this. And they're addictive because old days watch liked like Welcome Back Kotter or some television show.
Hold it. You lagged on us. How do we get to Welcome Back?
No one remembers Welcome Back Kotter. Come on. Well, I'm just saying, in the old days of watching a television show, it's Tuesday night, 8:30, your television show's on. If you really love that show, guess what you're going to do? You're going to wait till next Tuesday at 8:30. That's when you get to watch it again.
Yes.
Nowadays, if you like that show, you watch the whole season at once. And so I'm binge watching. I have 5 shows, 6. And in my brain, there is the good dog talking. Like, what the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing with your life? You could put japa into your life. You could put like Krishna book into your life. You could put spiritual truth into your life. You could organize your spice shelf. And you're watching this murderous show. But addictions, you got to choose your addictions wisely. And after 4 days of this, I didn't tell Mara, I didn't tell you, I didn't tell anybody. I was just like, and we said something in the show 2 days ago, and I was like, it's over. I just said, in my mind, I said, it's over. My binge addiction is over. I'm not going to let this into my consciousness. Okay, I have some free time now. I'm not going to put this in my free time. I want to put Krishna in my free time. So my point is, and I'm using myself as an example, you might have some downtime. Don't use that downtime to binge watch Maya. Add some truth to your life, some light in your life. I did this for you. I sacrificed for you for that example.
So then let's hear your feeding of the good dog.
The feeding of the good dog is, I think, what we're doing now. You can binge listen. Oh, here's another great thing. If you've ever think, man, I like how Kaustubha quotes verses from Sanskrit. Here's your chance to learn that. You can learn verses. Maybe we can put some key shlokas up. I think basically on the Discord chat, Kaustubha, we should make one where I can list things and you can list things separately. So there's a Kaustubha thing and a Raghunath thing, and we could put up things that we like.
You don't want to share the same channel?
Well, we do share a channel together. We can share it, but sometimes we need our own private space.
I'm offended.
Sometimes I like to be alone. But
you don't want to mix your stuff with my stuff? Okay, I get it. Fine. Make your channel. No problem.
I didn't need it like that. I like sharing a channel with you too. But anyway, my point is that there's a lot of great stuff. It's a great time. It's a great time to learn all these things that you haven't learned before. There's a lot of good, healthy food out there, especially in the whole Vedic system of education. India this is where you would go for education. There were universities, ancient universities, that a lot of them were destroyed by invaders, but it was a place for learning. The Chinese would send people there. The princess of Cambodia would send students. It was unbelievable how India was the center, and that was their big export. It was education. It's quite amazing. And anyway, we're here, and I feel like we're here, like in ancient right now, studying these books. They've been almost like unearthed, kept in treasure chests. How to like apply this stuff to life. And India was always known for this great types of both material wealth and spiritual wealth. Anyway, we are here for great education that this culture has to offer. Okay. By the way, it's also interesting that Vasudeva and Devaki prayed for Krishna to be their son. Like that, from a previous life, that was their meditation. I want Krishna. Imagine they were great yogis. Devaki was like an incredible yogini. That was her focus. That was her meditation. I want to have Krishna as my son. She wasn't ordinary. Huh?
We read about that in other ways too, right? Like the Yashoda and Nanda did the same thing. We hear about the sages of Dandakaranya, right?
The sages of Dandakaranya,
who in the Ramayana, they saw Lord Ram with Sita, and they could see how special the service was that Sita was performing for Ram, how special her love was. But they knew Ram only takes one wife, and through their meditation, with the desire to serve Krishna in a particular way, they took birth as gopis in the next life, and had that relationship with Krishna. So yeah, we read about how I want to serve you, Krishna. I want to serve in a particular way. Krishna fulfills the desire.
It'd be interesting if all yoga classes in America started like, okay, find your intention. Perhaps it is to have Krishna as your child. Okay, let's go on.
Well, that's what we said about you yesterday, right? You posted that picture of you with all these ladies. Where was that? Was that in Udaipur?
Oh, yeah.
You posted on Instagram?
With all those old Indian ladies from Rajasthan.
That was a great photograph. But you're one of them, Raghu. I just looking at you are one of them.
I am one of those old ladies from Udaipur. That's why I get along with Pradeep's mother so well.
Totally.
Pradeep's mother is a Delhiwali. She sits there and just she's living the life of. I could spend all day with her singing bhajans.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go on. Text 34. Others say that the world, being overburdened like a boat at sea, is much aggrieved, and that Brahma, who is your son, prayed for you, and so you have appeared to diminish the trouble.
Okay. So that's exactly what we were just talking about. At the beginning of Mahabharata, the earth is overburdened. I can't bear all of these horrible leaders. And please, she's saying to Brahma, please help. And so then Brahma, along with all the devas, prays to Lord Vishnu for his appearance. And he comes as Krishna.
The Supreme Spirit entered the universe, and the first living being, Brahma, was born on a lotus flower grown out of the transcendental abdomen of Vishnu. Vishnu is therefore known as Padmanabha. Not a great name? Padmanabha, right? It means the Padma is growing from his nabha, his belly button. There's a Padma, there's a flower growing from his, right? We've been to that temple, right? Padmanabha Goswami in South India.
Padmanabh Swami. Yeah.
Padmanabha Swami. It's like this ancient temple in India.
In Trivandrum.
Yeah.
Or is now called Tiruvananthapuram.
Yeah, right. That's the original name. Is a very, very gigantic deity of Lord Vishnu. You know, usually when
18 feet long, I believe.
18 feet. And so usually when you go to a temple, sometimes there's 3 altars that will open the doors. Each three of the altar door, the first altar is his head, and the middle one is his navel, and the third one is his lotus feet. And so Vishnu is lying down on Anantashesh. It's a really cool ancient temple. And these temples of India are so ancient. You hear about them in the Puranas. So some might look at the architecture and say, oh, this is a very old temple. It's older. The deity was installed before the temple was even there. It's had many different temples built around the deity. You can still find the deities that Ram worshipped. Is that unbelievable? Is that unbelievable?
That's in Sri Rangam. I think he carved that deity.
That's the Rameshwar.
No, in Sri Rangam.
I've never been to Sri Rangam.
You've never been to Sri Rangam, really?
I've never been to Sri Rangam.
Oh yeah, you gotta. Okay, Raghu, we're going to Sri Rangam someday.
Let's go to Sri Rangam. Let's do a whole South Indian pilgrimage.
We got to do it. Yeah, and that the deity in Trivandrum, that Padmanabh Swami, you know, who was very devoted to that deity, was the great Alwar. We spoke about the Alwars some time ago.
South Indian Bhakti mystics.
Poets, yeah. But King Kulashekar, who was one of the Alwars, who wrote incredibly beautiful prayers. Whatever he wrote the Mukunda Mala Stotram, I believe.
I'm a little Alwar illiterate.
Okay, I'm not so literate with the Alwars either, but that book was Prabhupada translated some verses from it, and then there was a BBT edition of that book that came out that I just loved that book, Mukunda Mala Stotra. So he was very devoted to that deity, Padmanabh Swami, Lord Vishnu there.
There's so many good books that even if we've got the rest of our life off, where you don't have to work, you can just stay home. There's so many good books on Bhakti that you could dive in. Did I ever tell you the guy, we met this, I wonder if he's still alive, because this was 20 years ago, but there was an old man, an Indian Gujarati man with a family. He was like probably a grandfather. And he owned a hotel somewhere in Syracuse. And when Shelter was brahmachari.
I know who that was. His name was started with a P.
Parjanya Maharaj.
Parjanya Maharaj.
This guy, he was so good. He owned this hotel, like a simple motel. And when Shelter used to play in Syracuse, my band, when I was a monk, he would let us stay at his hotel. And he would go into where his family lived at the motel, and his family would cook us this huge feast. And he was an old man, and he ran this motel business. And then he'd invite us into his home. And in the morning, I remember reading the Srimad Bhagavatam with him. He must have been 65 then. So if he's still alive, he'd be 85. I'm going to ask about him. But anyway, he was just reading the Bhagavatam. I said, what do you do all day? He goes, well, this is my job. I really just read the Bhagavatam all day long. He's figured out a way to just make some money from his hotel to afford him the life to read the Bhagavatam all day long. He was such an example of like steady level-headedness and connection.
And like a lot of, you go to, if you went to all the motels across America and you saw them and you were able to monitor the mental state of each person sitting behind the desk, right? Because people bored out of their mind.
Losing, right. But
and here he is. I just read the Bhagavatam and I'm totally happy, and I'm being, completely, enlivened by this. Such a sweet man. We had
a running list of different
Patel motels.
Gujaratis. We called them Patel motels because the Patel is like I think it's like a caste in Gujarat that got into the hotel business or motel business in the United States sometime probably in the 70s or 80s. And so they're all like very devotional. Gujarat is an incredibly devotional state in India. Yeah. And so when a bunch of monks are coming through, not only are you welcome to stay, we're going to make you a huge dinner and breakfast, and
don't leave.
Don't leave, please.
We would roll in there. We would follow concert tours and we would be selling Bhagavad Gitas at them. We'd roll in there with like 20, 25 guys. And they would
25 brahmacharis?
Yeah. And they would take care of us.
And they'd love it. They'd love it. Who else? Only Indians can do that. This is why I love Indian community. Where else can you pull in with 25 people and say, hey, can we stay? Can we stay at your home? and not only do they say, of course, we're going to, it's not like as brahmacharis, we were planning in advance very often. We were just like showing up and saying, can we stay here? Not only did they welcome us, but they fed us.
Yeah. And fed you well.
And he fed you well. It's not like frozen tater tots from Trader Joe's. It wasn't that. It was like everything freshly made.
It's ingrained in the culture because bhakti is ingrained in the culture. So the idea of when a guest comes, let's do all that we can to please them and serve them. That's really, it's the same thing in the puja. What is the puja? But it's like, dear Lord, please enter into my heart. Let me offer you this. Let me offer you that. What else can I do to make you happy? That's what's going on in the puja. Let me offer you.
That's what love is. That's what love is.
That's
what can
love
I get
is. Yeah, that's right. So that love, that bhakti is built into the culture where, and again, you know, I think we mentioned this one time before, but there's that video that we saw, a little clip of that comedian, Sebastian something.
Maniscalco.
Yeah. who's talking about, you know, what it used to be like that people without announcement would drop by your home. They would ring the doorbell and you'd go.
So happy to see them. Hey, I can't believe you're here.
Yeah. He said, we had this thing called company, right? If someone would show up at your door, you would invite them in. You'd be really happy. The whole family would gather around. You would talk to each other. And nowadays someone rings your doorbell and you're like ducking, like, who the hell is that?
Are you expecting guests?
Yeah. So that Indian hospitality is really, you know, the top, you know.
Truthfully, it's still there, I think, in a lot of European countries too. It's just not so much in America.
That may be, but particularly, you know, it's like I've had many strangers invite me to stay in their home in India, you know, just, you know,
total strangers come to my house, I'll feed you.
You know, I had an experience once. It's worth sharing because I think it also illustrates the difference, how, as you know, like religion, quote unquote religion, can steer you away from the spiritual goal.
Right.
And how a more simple person that doesn't have the accoutrements of the religion necessarily may embody it more. But my wife and I, you know, we did a 6-month tour all over India. And then we got down to South India where we had never been before. And we went to Tirupati, then to Kanchipuram, then to Srirangam, then to Madurai. And then we went to...
I'm jealous.
Guruvayur, the temple of Guruvayur in Kerala. It's a Vishnu temple. Now, we are not always allowed in the temples in South India. Sometimes they don't allow, quote unquote, non-Hindus to go in. And really that means if you're not born Indian. And
which is not really appropriate. It's a way that it was a cross between, you got to understand, all these invaders came to India. Therefore, there became like a rule, no outsiders.
Yeah. And
there was never really outsiders that were devotional. So I think in South India, they struggle with this philosophically even to today.
So, but there's a type of bigotry that's tied into it, quite frankly. And so when we got to Guruvayur, my wife wasn't in the mood to be not allowed in or something like that. She said, you go and check it out. And if you can go in, then we'll go tonight. So I wandered into the temple of Guruvayur on my own in the afternoon. There was no line of people waiting. That temple is so beautiful. It's insane. I mean, you walk through the front, you know, entrance, and on your left, you can look into this room and people are grinding sandalwood. But usually, you know, you grind sandalwood, you have a little stick and a little rock and you're grinding it like this. They had like 3 or 4 or 5 people in there with like big logs of sandalwood with huge stones, and they're grinding like this. And the aroma coming out of that was just unbelievable. And the sattvic quality of that temple was just off the charts. And it was like stepping into it was like stepping into the Satya Yuga, like stepping into a previous age. The paintings that surround the temple were just, the whole thing. It's hard for me to describe how special that atmosphere was. So I was like, okay, this is great. And I came out to my wife, hey, you know, they let me in, no problem. We're good for tonight. Let's go tonight. We were all excited. But in the evening, there was a long line to get in. And then as we got to the front of the line, they said, no non-Hindus allowed. And I was dealing with this priest of the temple whose mood was quite, he wasn't, let's say he wasn't friendly.
Wasn't friendly. Not good.
And
Gonna be a priest, gotta be friendly.
and
That's what I
so he
said.
said, only Hindus allowed. I said, well, okay, well, I'm a Hindu, you know, like what do I need to do to prove that to you? Did you want me to quote some Bhagavad Gita verses? You want, you know, let's go, you know? And he
Let's
was,
go. You're gonna have like a spiritual MMA.
and he said, you know, we went back and forth a little bit. And then at a certain point, he looked at me, who has a bit of a darker complexion than my wife. You know, we're both, she's dressed in a sari. I'm dressed, you know, in a dhoti and a chadar, no shirt, you know.
I look pretty
Very
Hindu.
traditional.
Very
Very
traditional.
And he says to me, he says, you maybe. Her? Blondie over here? No. He said like that.
Racist. I call racism.
And so then, anyway, then a police officer came by. And he was very apologetic. And I didn't want to make a big scene or anything. So I let it go, you know. But we were booked to stay there for 3 days. So that was our first day. Now we have to stay in this place where we can't go into the temple. So in the morning, I was chanting my japa and circumambulating the outside of the temple. And I ran into that police officer again.
Yeah.
And he apologized to me. He said, I'm so sorry. You've come so far to see Guru Vayor, to see Lord Vishnu.
Did you ever have a New York City police officer say that to you?
New York cops can be good sometimes. You know?
They're very
I'm
good.
impressed with the cops sometimes.
They're very good.
But he said, please, you and your wife, please come and stay in my home. Like that.
Did you ever have a New York City cop do that to you?
No.
I like New York cops too, but never had.
He said, please come and stay in my home, you know, and he was just like really just like encouraging us. And you could just see, he had never met me before. He had just seen me, you know, very briefly. But he had that faith that these are good people. If I serve them, if I please them, that this is my duty, and this is how I'm meant to behave. And you can see that softness in the heart, the humility that's there with that, the eagerness to serve another, that this is really where our religion is meant to take us. That the priest, he didn't have it at all, you know, but the cop who's like in that relationship, he's the total like subservient person, right? Like the priest is the big shot and the cop is just some guy that's meant to keep some order around here. He actually embodied the mood that the practice is supposed to take one to so deeply.
That's the big lesson. That experience was the big lesson. It's got nothing to do with what you know or how enlightened or how learned you are in transcendental literature. It's application of that literature, which the cop embodied. Great story. That's like the wives of the Brahmin story.
It was exactly like that story. Yeah.
It was good.
Such a soft heart.
It's over. I need more of you people in my life to keep this Bhagavatam thing going.
4 o'clock today, Raghu. Tune in with us, 13th chapter if you're free.
All right.
And I had an idea. Why don't you and I read the Mukundamala Stotra together online? Just like at some random time. It is such nectar. You're going to love it.
Okay. Anyway, let's do more stuff. I think I want to do Krishna book reading again. Maybe double up on it this week.
All right.
Thanks for everybody joining us on Apple Podcasts. Please give us a 5-star review. It really helps our rankings. Everybody on Zoom, get so focused in your japa meditation. We'll talk a little bit about it. Thanks for everybody joining. We hit 100 again. Hit 100 again. So they're banging on the door to get into Zoom. This is the time, Zoom people, that you move your hands like this. You take your namaste like this, and you go like this. And believe me, that it's not just singing and chanting that make you joyful. It's dancing that makes you very Come on, Paramananda. Come on. Don't let me call you out. If I don't see you dancing, I start calling you out. Come on, Pedro Gonzalez Vargas. Move it. There we go. Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai Radhe. Yes, with your partners, with your kids, with your pet. Take off those headphones. Tom Essig. Vegan truckers, come on. Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai. Okay, I'm opening the new page. Wait a second. What's going on? Bosh or mash? Come on. Move those hands. Yeah. Mike Conway. Come on. Nikila. Don't let me call you out, Nikila. Sarah Oakley, get the frozen face off. Dana Marie, come on. I know it's morning time. Where's Carla, the coach? Shri Rupaji. It's every morning. It's Krishna karaoke with your host, Raghunath. We're going to go through all the hits on the top of the charts for the last 5,000 years. I'm going through every page. Gonna find out who's naughty or nice. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Papa Tony, you're next. I'm looking for you. Jamuna, oh, Hare, Shri Vrindavana. This is the big one. Ready? Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai Radhe.